Welcome to Heat Checks and Hail Marys. This is Mike Cagley. It's July 25th. That means we are on the eve of the Olympics starting, and Deadpool and Wolverine is actually opening tonight. They supposedly open on Fridays, but we know now that Thursday night is when these things happen. Tonight's Thursday night, and it is a very, very anticipated movie for those people who are enjoying the superhero genre and for those theater owners who need a breakout blockbuster for this year. I think this will actually be the movie that does it. Of course, we just had Big Ten football media days. So that means with 18 teams, there's 3 long days, a lot going on. And we're going to have our third heat check is going to include a guest appearance by Brad Sturdy of Big Sports Radio and the Illini guys, as well as Kedrick Prince of the Illini guys. So you'll want to stick through to the end of the show as well. So let's start off on Heat Check and Hail Mary number one. This is Big Ten Media Days. And there were a few things that jumped out at me that I thought I would share. I think these things are a big deal. I don't know what you think. Put in your comments if you agree with me. The first one was UCLA, Deshaun Foster. He's a new coach at UCLA. He's obviously a new head coach, period. And it really showed on Big Ten Media Days with one of the strangest press conferences. And I'm going to tell you, in fairness to him, we've all had bad days at work. Very few of us happen to be on national TV when those things happen. That's why the coaches get paid so much. And that's why it also pays to do a little bit of practice and rehearsing before the event. I was surprised at how it went. Maybe in the future you can retcon it for you Marvel fans. That's when you change the facts up a little bit and have a different way to look at the past. Maybe they can retcon it as just incredibly wise sense of humor that would make Monty Python jealous. I don't know if that's going to work, but that's how I would position it. I will say that as we did our Big Sports Radio preview and talked a little bit about the preparations UCLA was making to come into the Big Ten, the voice of the Bruins, Matt Stevens, was really high on Deshaun Foster, his bond with the players, and how the UCLA football program was doing. So I do think there is maybe more to be seen than just making a snap judgment on one very, very ugly press conference. I also want to bring up the Michigan Wolverines. This is really interesting to me because I think with head coach Sharon Moore taking over from Jim Harbaugh, and with 13 players selected in the NFL draft this year, including 7 in the top 100 pick, there are plenty of reasons that Michigan could miss out on the CFP. I'm not saying they won't, but what I am saying is there's very little pressure on this Michigan team. You've got all these things you can point at, so you've really got nothing to lose when you go up against the big hitters of the conference. I don't think it's going to be a killer if they have a rough season. Now, rough for Michigan might be 7-5. But if they turn it on this year and they have replacements in their system all ready to go for guys who are playing on Sunday, that means a down season in the eyes of many people who are looking at Michigan turns into a very strong season, which bodes very well for Moore's recruiting in the future. I think a lot of this is going to come down to quarterback play, but I think Sharon Moore is in a very good position, one that is probably easier than the next person I'm going to talk about, because now we're looking at Ohio State. This roster looks like a top 4 team. Heck, it looks like a top 1 or 2 team. I think only Georgia rivals it, and depending on how you look at things, Oregon might be up there as well. But this team has to beat the Wolverines. Buckeye fans expect a defeat of the Wolverines. They expect a Big Ten title, and they expect a national title. If Ohio State loses a 4th in a row to Michigan, Ryan Day had better win the whole thing, because that is one tough road to hoe. Why do I say is that it's so bad? Because his record has been spectacular. Well, the last coach to lose 3 in a row to Michigan was also the last coach to lose 4 in a row to Michigan, and that was John Cooper. John Cooper had a nice record, took the Ohio State team to high levels, but they could not beat on a consistent basis that team up north. John Cooper, with everything that he did well, is not a coach that people will associate happily with a current Ohio State coach. And if you're a current Ohio State coach and you have to listen to the words John Cooper and your name in the same sentence too often, that makes you a little nervous. Ryan Day is in a position where he has to win and he's got to beat Michigan, and he really has high expectations for a national title. Now, I think the interesting thing about this Ohio State team is Chip Kelly has had some phenomenal offenses over the years. I don't know that he's ever had a team this talented before. And what he might be able to do in his first year will be a real, real wild card for how good this Ohio State team is. If he can get that offense clicking, they might be untouchable this season. Next up is a team that I didn't think I'd be talking about much, but Rutgers. The first time around, Greg Schiano had winning seasons in 6 of his last 7 years at Rutgers before he jumped into the NFL. Yes, I realize that was in the Big East, but nonetheless, he won 11 games in a season. He also won 9 games in a season. Just to put that in perspective for you, I can't help it because I'm kind of a history buff. In the history of Rutgers football, only 2 coaches have won either 9 or 11 games. John Bateman won 9 games in 1961. And the man with what I think is the worst name and the worst time to have that name was a coach named Frank Burns. For those people who watch MASH, you didn't want to be named after old ferret face. And he was actually a contemporary of that. But Coach Frank Burns won 9 games twice in 1975 and 1978. And he won 11 in 1976. That's it. The over 100 years of Rutgers playing football, there you are. So don't ever underestimate what Greg Schiano's can do as the head coach there. He was starting to put a nice lock around the New Jersey State, which has a lot of high school talent. He's trying to rebuild that as we speak, but he has been recruiting well. And now Rutgers had one huge thing against them, their schedule. Being in the Big Ten Eastern Division, it has been a nightmare. Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, and it hasn't been kind to the Rutgers program. This season, they play Howard, Akron, at Virginia Tech, Washington, at Nebraska, Wisconsin, UCLA, at USC, Minnesota, at Maryland, Illinois, and at Michigan State. Holy cow. There's no Ohio State, there's no Michigan, there's no Penn State, and there's no Oregon. If you were going to give a coach a list and say, hey, there's 4 teams that we will guarantee you can miss playing this year in the Big Ten, those would be the 4 teams that literally probably 16 out of the 18 coaches would write down. And Rutgers is on an upward swing. They've got a coach who's proven he can win. I think if there's a dark horse candidate for a Big Ten title game appearance, it's this Rutgers team. I still don't think it's very likely, but this schedule sets up to give them the opportunity to put up a heck of a win-loss record. And certainly this team should have the expectation, not just to go to an average bowl, but go to a big-time bowl. And this Rutgers team is set up for success. Don't be surprised about what they do. Now it's time for Heat Check and Hail Mary number 2. And this is talking about the Olympics. We're going to talk about Big Ten Olympians by school. And if you look at what is going on in the Olympics, it is pretty impressive. According to the Big Ten, Team USA will include 129 athletes from the conference. So basically, they make up more than 25% of the American delegation. That is pretty darn impressive. And you take a look at the Olympians by school, USC and Michigan lead the way with 44 and 42 each. Then you have UCLA, Penn State at 23 and 21. Then you have a group, Indiana and Wisconsin at 17 each, Ohio State 12, Oregon, Purdue, Washington at 11 each, Minnesota 8, Nebraska 7, Iowa 7, Maryland 6, Northwestern 6 as well, Illinois and Rutgers of 4, and Michigan State with 3. A really, really impressive showing by the Big Ten in the Olympics this year. For those Illini fans who were tuning in, Illinois will actually be represented by 5 alumni. One is a current student athlete and a current assistant coach this year in Paris. There'll actually be 7 individuals because you will have 2 donning the colors of Belgium, 1 with Ghana, and then the United States. Thomas Detry and Adrian Dumont Chassart are both set to represent Belgium in men's golf. Jordan Poulter and Erin Virtue, she's an assistant coach, will represent the United States women's indoor volleyball squad. Current Illini Rose Yeboah will represent Ghana in the women's high jump. And Illinois track and field assistant coach Deanna Price will sport the red, white, and blue in the women's hammer throw. And Rajiv Ram will represent the United States in men's tennis doubles action. So that is a fantastic demonstration of Illinois and the Big Ten. And certainly it makes one wonder, with all the focus on NIL and paying athletes, you can see where the revenue sports such as football, basketball, women's basketball, and women's volleyball get a lot of the attention. But certainly taking care of the Olympics sports is something that's also important in terms of the United States performance in the games. And that's something that gets lost in all the debate that we've had right now regarding what is going on with college athletics and how you're going to set up rules. Certainly you can check your listings. So many sports are going to be broadcast that you can support your Big Ten or Illini athletes and have a little bit more fun out of the Olympics, as well as the sports you would normally be looking for. We are on to heat check number 3. Now, for heat check number 3, I had to bring in 2 other experts in entertainment, Brad Sturdy, Kedrick Prince. With myself, we watch way too many movies and we do have the bodies to prove it. There's no Chris Hemsworth in this group. If you eat a full tub of popcorn, it can slow you down in getting those abs. So, guys, this weekend, Deadpool and Wolverine. I will tell you, I bought tickets 6 weeks ago and Thursday night was already sold out. And so I have to go on Friday night, which breaks one of my rules for when I really want to go see a movie. So now I've got to avoid reading about it or hearing about it. Brad, where are you at on your anticipation for Deadpool and Wolverine?
Oh, we're definitely going to watch it. My daughter and I, my youngest daughter and I, we go to, she's just graduated from high school. We've gone to Marvel movies since, well, you know, the pandemic, right? Endgame, we're going to Endgame, things like that. So
Yep.
that's kind of our thing. But and so yeah, I'm very excited. The bromance is fun, you know, with Ryan Reynolds, Hugh Jackman. I think the story's cool. It's good to have Wolverine back. You know, after what looked like it was kind of a swan song, and Ryan Reynolds is always entertaining. I mean, so I'm very excited about this. I always wonder how they're going to play all this stuff. What I loved about the first phase 1 of that Marvel thing with up through Endgame was how they tied everything together. And they did a great job weaving those stories together. I want to see how they can weave all these stories together a little bit better, maybe, because right now they're kind of, I don't know, they're kind of standalone things. It's not quite as exciting when they stand alone, if that makes sense.
For sure. I want to tell you, I'm really excited because I thought Hugh Jackman. I thought he was done. I thought, there was talk about him hanging it up and not wanting to do it. But I am a huge, Ryan Reynolds fan. I just think, in all the Deadpools, I mean, I could just watch him and his one-liners. I think they're awesome. I mean, I think it's going to be great. Mike, to talk about it being sold out. You convinced me to buy that movie pass thing, and I'm trying to get in. I'm hoping somebody, will not show up. But anyway, I just think the cast is really good. And to be honest with you, I think Marina Baccarin, I think she's hot. Sorry. I'm just a big fan of hers. So, Ryan Reynolds or Deadpool's wife. But anyway, I'm looking forward to it. Marvel's, they do a really good job. They do a good job. And most of the movies do tie in, but I think right now they're so big. And so I'm really curious to see if there's going to be, we always want to wait till the end of the movie to see what's going to come on next. And, so which one they're going to tie this to. But I really want to see those two in action, and with Wolverine and Deadpool. So it's a much anticipated movie. Wish would have happened early in the summer. I mean, summer's pretty much over with, but better late than never, I guess.
All of us who are superhero guys knew they were going to run into problems when they ended up getting some second tier movies of people who weren't that popular in the comic books. Not every movie is going to be Guardians of the Galaxy where people never heard of them and then they're a blockbuster. I do think it is going to be interesting to see if Marvel now coming off of this, which I think is going to be a huge hit, and people don't realize, but on July 25th, so we're recording this on July 24th, but on July 25th, when you're probably listening to this, is 1 year away from the Fantastic Four opening up. And then I think we're going to be back to some Marvel blockbusters because they're going to have the Fantastic Four. They're going to have the Avengers kind of back together. I don't know exactly what that is going to look like. And of course, you've got the X-Men waiting in the wings. So I think there's going to be an awful lot of excitement coming out of Marvel, and I think this will kick off maybe a little bit of a upward arc in terms of the movie from an enjoyment level.
I'll tell you what, Mike, jumping to next year, I saw the preview that was released a week or two ago for the new Captain America, Brave New World. That looked really, really good to me too. So I think they're getting some of the, like you mentioned, the big heavy hitters back. So what I don't like about movies, and I understand why, because I like them so much, is you have to wait 1 or 2 years before you see them. It's like you go to the movie theater and you see it, you think, okay, when's the next one coming out? So it's not like Netflix where you're going to watch it. I'm sorry, I don't want to give them a plug, or a streaming service where you can watch them and back to back. So I just think they do a really good job. And like you mentioned, the big heavy hitters, they've always struck gold. I mean, some of the smaller ones they have. I know Scarlet Witch. I think I've seen some rumblings with that one. With her coming back. So I'm gonna get online and I want to look to see the order because sometimes they'll tell you when you think they're coming and they're not. But I do know in 2025, I think February is when the new Captain America comes out. So, and maybe with the Deadpool movie this weekend, maybe they'll leave a tag for us or a teaser for us to promote that movie. Because I think is that the next one? That's the next big Marvel's movie.
Yes,
I believe it's 25.
Yes.
Okay,
that'll be exciting. Anyway, we try to give you guys a little bit of our guy expertise in terms of entertainment, and of course, this weekend you have the opening of Deadpool Wolverine. Next weekend, you got Terrence Crawford fight and SummerSlam in the WWE. So a couple big weekends in a row here. And then we are so close to that holy part of the year when football starts. You get the college guys kicking it off, then the NFL, and it's just fantastic for the rest of the year. Thank you so much, Ked, for coming on.
Appreciate
and Brad.
it.
Thanks.